Ready to have a deeper conversation about body and soul, sacred leadership, and our collective evolution? Welcome to the Wise Body Ancient Soul podcast with me, your host, Charisse Sisou. Today's episode is about the fact that it's never too late. It is never too late. Your timing is perfect for exactly where you are right now. I was super fortunate to learn this at a young age. I was early 20s when this spunky woman walked into my cafe. So it was not long after I graduated from college. And at that point, I had met my husband. We were not yet married at that time. And I had, my family loved this. I had thrown away my career and started working with him in his cafe. And so one day, this woman walks into the cafe. Petite, white hair pulled to one side in a ponytail, in those big red rimmed glasses like from like the 80s, right? And she walks in and she's like, I would like half a falafel. We had a Middle Eastern vegetarian cafe, and so we had a small menu, hummus, falafel, baba ganoush, etc. And I was like, we don't sell falafels by the half. And she was like, well, I just want half. And that was my introduction to Trudy Morse. And she is no longer in the body. And I did not know who she was at the time. And I'm going to paint this picture of you, just read a few words from an article that was written for her back in 2013 when she passed. The world mourns passing of great humanitarian Trudy Morse. This pure Renaissance woman was a civil rights activist, having traveled through Africa, Australia, Europe, and the U.S., an advocate for natural childbirth and breastfeeding, a poet, a dancer, and all-around champion humanitarian. She is survived by 6 children, 21 grandchildren, and 10 great-grandchildren. And her late husband, Malcolm, was a famous scientist, and it goes on from there. So I had no idea the stature, I could see her physical stature, but the stature of the woman that walked in, I had no idea. But she made such an impression on me, and there's not enough room in this episode to talk about all that. She, presided over my engagement ceremony with my first husband. It was like, she basically came in and was like, are you serious? Are you guys serious about this relationship? And she kind of took me aside and she was like, because he was quite a few years my senior, and Trudy was like, he's going to want all the traditional things. Like, he's going to want you to cook and clean and da-da-da-da. And I was like all gaga in love. So I was like, that's fine. And was like, sure. Because on one level, I knew it the moment I put my hand on his shoulder the first time that we danced together. I was like, this is the father of my children. Like, there was no, I'd never experienced anything like that. It was like a physical jolt of energy up my arm when I put my hand on his shoulder. And so on some level, I just knew that we were contracted. I didn't know about sacred contracts in that time. I didn't know about any of that stuff. But I felt it in my body. Like, there's something like that I cannot ignore here. So we were clearly linked, and we were heading down this path, and Trudy was like, basically was like, shit or get off the pot, right? Like, either commit to each other or don't. And so she ended up presiding over our engagement ceremony, which we held right in the cafe. We invited friends and family, local friends and family, and it was open to the public as well. Because of course, we're not going to close the cafe because that would be just insanity. And that was whatever. That was just where I was at that time. So, our friends and family were there, as well as anyone who happened to wander in to get our famous chai or a falafel or what have you. So that's where I was. This was one of the stories that made such an impression on me that Trudy shared with me, and I wanted to share with you today to just reassure you. Anytime that you are like, oh, it's too late, I can't start now. No way, right? So in 2013, she passed away at age like 92, 94, something like that. So when I met her, she was, let me see, 94 in 2013. I met her, like 15 years earlier. So she would have been in her late 70s, early 80s. I know, I'm not doing math right now. At that time, she was doing a live performance at one of our competing cafes, like next town over, in honor of Sun Ra. She was touring. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Sun Ra and his orchestra, he was a very avant-garde, like jazz musician, but totally like otherworldly, like, if there was such a thing as alien jazz musicians, that would be Sun Ra and his crew. Okay. And, funky music. And the story goes like this. So Trudy outlived her beloved husband Malcolm by many years. And, they had these great children together, grandchildren together, great-grandchildren. She lived a really full life as a humanitarian, as an activist. They were able to do so many things as a couple. And, she was very much in that traditional role as, the philanthropist, but also taking care of her partner, taking care of her kids, like doing all of that stuff. So Malcolm passes away, and she grieves because he really was the love of her life, one of the loves of her life, right? And when enough time had passed, maybe it was a year, 2 years, a dear friend in their shared circle approached her and was like, Trudy, so, we've always liked each other. You're single now. I'm single now. It was like a widower or, a widower that was in her circle and was kind of like, hey, we're both unattached. Like, why not attach to each other? And she looked at him with so much friendship and compassion and was like, no, thank you. Because as she shared with me, she was like, I was done picking up socks. Like I realized in that moment, she's like, I considered it, right? I considered it because it was a really kind, it was out of kindness that this gentleman had approached her this way and, obviously loved her and, or thought that they could develop a love together. And she was like, I've done the wife thing. I'm really ready to try something new. Now this would be, she would have been in her 70s or, you know what I mean? Like she was not a spring chicken. We'll just put it that way. Okay. So she tells me how she didn't know what she wanted to do yet, but she knew that she was ready for a different life. She didn't resent her, you know what I mean? She loved it. She loved being that wife and partner. She loved being grandma. She told me so many stories about her children and there was just so much love there and learning and growth. And she was ready for something new. Then she's at a Sun Ra concert. This is how she told it to me. She's in this concert hall and she's sitting there and she's listening to this music. And she is just beside herself. She's feeling so excited. And she's like, I need to get back there and talk to this Sun Ra. And she, my goodness, she must have been, 4'6" or something. She was a petite lady, however many inches of her got herself backstage, right? And got to talking with Sun Ra and was like, I want to tour with your band. And he was like, cool. What do you play? And she's like, I don't play anything. He's like, so what's your musical instrument? She's like, I'm a poet. I sing, I dance, right? And you know what's amazing? He was like, yes, join us. And she became a part of the orchestra and she started touring with them. So she had this whole second life, but I know us, we've got multiple lives, even in one incarnation. We have all these different roles and these different things, but she had a whole new life as a traveling jazz musician. Okay. And with Sun Ra and his orchestra and that's how I came to meet her was, because she, was doing a memorial kind of tour remembering Sun Ra and performing in his honor. So all that to say, and I've carried Trudy's story. This is one of her stories that just touched me deeply. And anytime I started telling myself this story, it's too late for me, I can't possibly start a podcast now. I can't possibly, write a book or go back to school for X, Y, or Z, or start a whole new career or yada, yada, hoo-hoo, whatever it is, right? Imagine if I told myself at 30, what are you doing taking belly dance lessons? Of course, I thought I was just doing something for a little me time, and then it turned into a vocation. And then I became a nationally award-winning belly dancer, because go big or go home, right? And it tells you a little bit about me. Your timing is perfect and elegant. And I know I've said that before, and it bears repeating, and especially from this perspective, which is it is never too late. If Trudy, after decades of being a loving wife and partner and mother and grandmother and great-grandmother, can reinvent herself totally, literally in this space of a concert, sitting there listening, I am supposed to be touring with these people. And then, bless Sun Ra for being yes. It's never too late. It is absolutely never too late. Another of my clients, speaker, same kind of deal. She's a professional organizer. And she became a speaker because she, after years and years of not singing, she had always, she played guitar and she sang when she was younger, then had this whole career, and then saw this ad for a band looking for a singer. And she was like, this is crazy, because it's literally been 20 plus years since she'd done anything like that. And she was like, screw it, I'm going to do it. And she did. And they were like, yes. And she started singing with this band. And now she speaks on being, embracing your bold self and going for it. And just, yeah, don't pay attention to the stories that want to come in, especially this story around timing. Oh, too late, no such thing. Just think of Trudy sitting on your shoulder, silver ponytail off to the side, red owl glasses, going, too late? What do you mean too late? When I met her, she was obviously done touring with Sun Ra. Sun Ra was no longer in the body. She was getting ready to travel to India. And she was like, hey, I'm looking for companions. Do you guys want to come with me? And we were so in our own story about, no way, this can't be real. We're like, no way. People don't do that. People don't just say hey, come with me. Our receptivity, we had some receiving issues. We'll just put it that way. Lots of receiving issues. Okay. We were like, no, she can't be serious. We're like, no. We got to take care of the cafe, da. And a week later, the barista over at the other cafe where she was performing was like, yeah, Trudy asked me to go to India with her and I'm going. And he traveled with her through India for like weeks and weeks, had the trip of his life, and in exchange for being a companion, for her safety, for her company, all of that stuff. She just wanted some companionship, some safety on this travel, right? And we were like kicking ourselves because we were like, oh my gosh, we couldn't imagine the generosity of that offer. We couldn't receive it. We were like, what, like, what language are you speaking, right? That's a whole other lesson right there. So take that as you will. Your timing is perfect and elegant. It is never too late. So is there anything that you have talked yourself out of, or that you're trying to talk yourself out of, or any little voices? I have them too, where it's like, if you had started this like 10 years ago, imagine where you'd be right now. Wah, 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 wah. Trudy, Angel Trudy. Oh. Here was someone who made such a global impression. And so is it really shocking that she made such an impression on me when I just knew her for a handful of days? Just that weekend that she was passing through Northampton, Massachusetts, and performing there, and we just had this interaction and all these adventures unfolded just over that literally 2-3 days that we knew each other. And I treasure those moments with Trudy. So bonus lesson there as well. You never know the impact that you have on another human being. You never know what story it is that you will share, what detail, what lesson learned, what experience, any of your lived experience. You never know what piece will hit someone and will shift the trajectory of their life forever. We have this capacity. We have this ability. So with that, I'm sending you some Trudy love. What do you want to do? What do I want to do? And just know your timing is perfect and elegant. From my heart to yours, I love you. Take what you need. Take all that you need and pass it on. Thanks for joining me on Wise Body, Ancient Soul. I hope it reminds you how magical and powerful you truly are. Kindly subscribe, rate, and review this podcast so more juicy light bringers like you can hear these transmissions. And if you're looking to connect more deeply with your body and soul's wisdom, visit CharisseSisou.com to learn how else we can play together. Here's to your joy and wild success. From my heart to yours, I love you. Take what you need and pass it on.